Hi guys, welcome back to the channel, and if you're new here, it's great to meet you. I'm Stella, and today I'll show you how to make this miniature desk, drawer unit, end table, and cubby for your dollhouse craft room. And the cool thing is they're all separate modules, so you can either use them as standalone pieces or rearrange them any way you like. As always, I'll have the free printable templates linked later in the video, so now let's get started. We'll begin with a cubby because it's the easiest one to make and a good way to get a feel for the process. So first, we'll cut this part 3 or 4 times and we'll stack all the layers together. And as usual, I recommend using cardstock from old packaging for this, since first of all it's basically free and that's always good, but also quite thick and still very easy to cut. You can use a cutting machine if you have one, or just regular scissors or a pen knife. We'll cover both sides of the resulting panel with a layer cut from either lightweight cardstock for a matte finish or photo paper for a glossy look. I went with the matte option. The finished piece should be roughly 2 mm thick. We'll make a second identical piece, and now we'll repeat the same process for these parts. We should end up with these 6 panels, which we'll assemble in this order. Next, we'll cover all these edges with thin strips of copy paper. Then we'll cut this part into lightweight cardstock or photo paper and we'll glue it to the back of the cubby. And with the first part done, we can move on to the next module. First, we'll cut this part 3 or 4 times and we'll stack all the layers together so the final piece ends up about 2 mm thick. We'll do the same for this part, but this time we'll have to make it 4 times in total. We'll glue these 4 bars to the part we made earlier, 2 per side, and the final piece should be roughly 6 mm thick. We'll repeat this process to make a second identical part. Then we'll cut this part several times and we'll glue all the layers in 2 groups, each about 2 mm thick. Lastly, we'll cut this part and stack 3 or 4 layers together until we reach a 2 mm thickness. And if you're using my free printable template, I definitely recommend using a pen knife to cut these little cutouts. On the other hand, if you have a cutting machine like a Cricut, a Silhouette, or an M1 Ultra like mine, you can use my digital templates, which you can find in my shop, linked in the description. At this point, we should have these 5 parts ready. We'll give them a generous coat of acrylic gesso, and I suggest using a square, stiff-bristled brush to create a nice wood grain texture. Another bonus of acrylic gesso is that it's quite dimensional, and that helps make paper structures a lot sturdier. Next, we'll use brown acrylic paint, watered down quite a bit so that it's very runny. We'll paint all the pieces quickly, and then we'll lightly lift some of the paint off with a paper towel and a clean dry paintbrush to get some lighter streaks in the color. I think it looks more realistic this way, don't you think? Once the paint has dried, as always, I suggest placing all the pieces between 2 layers of parchment paper and then under something heavy like a big book for a little while. This will flatten the cardstock and the parchment paper will absorb any leftover moisture in the paint, preventing the panels from bending over time. When all the elements are ready, we can put them together like this. With the second module done, we can start the third one, the drawer unit. First, we'll cut this part 3 or 4 times and we'll glue all the layers together. The final piece should be 2 mm thick. Next, we'll cut this part twice and we'll glue 2 sides together. We'll attach the resulting part to the one we made before. And then we'll repeat this process to make a second piece, identical but mirrored. Both panels should measure roughly 3 mm in thickness. Next, we'll cut this part 3 or 4 times and again we'll stack all the layers together. The final piece should be 2 mm thick. We'll repeat the same for this part, which we'll make twice. Finally, we'll cut this part twice and we'll glue 2 sides together. The resulting piece should be about 1 mm thick. We should end up with these 6 pieces, which we'll coat with acrylic gesso first. and then with acrylic paint. And by the way, if you're curious to know what colors I'm using, you can find a short list of the supplies I used in this project in the description. When all the panels are ready, we can assemble them like this. We can now start working on the drawers. First, we'll cut this part 3 or 4 times, and again we'll stack all the layers together. We'll cover one side of the resulting panel with a layer of lightweight cardstock. Then we'll cut this part and we'll glue it to the other side of the panel. We'll repeat this process to make a second piece, identical but mirrored. Then we'll cut this part 3 or 4 times, we'll glue the layers together, and finally we'll cover both sides with lightweight cardstock. We'll do the same for this part. And we should end up with these 4 pieces that we'll assemble like this. We'll cover the edges of the panels with a couple of paper strips. And finally, we'll take 2 toothpicks, skewers, or small round dowels and glue them into the grooves on the drawers' sides. We'll repeat this process to make 3 drawers in total, and we'll slide them into the drawer's space structure. Next, we'll cut this part 2 or 3 times, we'll stack the layers together, and then we'll cover both sides of the resulting panel with lightweight cardstock. At this point, I painted the edge of the panel white, but to be honest, it would have been so much faster to just cover it with paper. I don't know why I did it this way, other than I like to make things way more complicated than they should be. Anyways, we'll repeat this process to make 2 more panels, and lastly, we'll do the 3 panels to the drawers. Now that all the base modules are ready, we can start working on the tops. First, we'll cut this part a few times and we'll stack all the layers until we have a piece that's about 4 mm in thickness. We'll do the same for this part. Then we'll cut this little strip 2 or 3 times and we'll glue all the layers together. Final piece should be around 1 mm thick. We'll do the same for these parts, and then we'll coat all these pieces with acrylic gesso first. And then with acrylic paint. At this point, we can assemble all the elements like this. And the first part of our miniature craft room is ready. What do you think I should make next? As promised, here's a link to the free printable template, and if you want to make a miniature cricut to go on this tiny craft desk, well, you should watch this video next. And this is all for today, until next time, bye!